Okay, welcome everyone. I think Soumya is also trying to join. I hope the network is still is working fine for you now because the changes have been made in the portal. I hope that you guys can now access easily. Okay, what we were doing in the previous classes? Any idea? Okay, Saturday. How many of you attended the classes? So we were doing something related to committees, right? We have already done some of the committees like Gadgil committee. All right. So I think we have not done two committees that were needed to be discussed. And then we will start with a new topic, which is your biodiversity. Under biodiversity only I have to cover. All right. Protected areas. Right. So Ishan, can you just give me a brief that what we have done till where we have done in the previous class? Can you all hear me out? आई थिंक कोई प्रॉब्लम है और स्टूडेंट्स ऑनलाइन आ रहे हैं फिर जा रहे हैं फिर आ रहे हैं फिर जा रहे हैं इधर देखो यहाँ पे Ishan came, he went, Soumya came, she went, and then she's again trying to join the portal. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. I hope you have also done the question. So this was, I'm sorry for the glitch, there was some technical issue and we were fixing that up. I hope I'm clear to all of you online students. Can you quickly reply to me? Voice is slow. Okay. Is it better now? Just quickly let me know, is it better now? Good, good. Okay. So we were on Kasturi Rangan and you can do and continue with the question later on. Okay. So we were on Kasturi Rangan. I explained to you that why this Kasturi Rangan committee was important with respect to Western Ghats. Reason that these areas are important as these are what? They are important ecologically. So, and Gadkir has also given a lot of recommendations, but the recommendations of Gadkir were not accepted by the people, and he has given very stringent, very strict rules, which were not possible for the people to accept. So, uh, just to rectify some of the clauses, some of the provisions which were given by Gadkir, there came the Kasturi Rangan, which was little liberal, then the Gadgil, but still he wanted that is also considered one of the most important committee recommendations so far. Right. So now, right now, we will talk about the comparison. First of all, write down the Kasturi Rangan committee offered what? Write down Kasturi Rangan committee report offered more moderate. Kasturi Rangan committee offered more moderate approach compared to Gadgil report. Kasturi Rangan offered Kasturi Rangan offered Kasturi Rangan offered more moderate report, more moderate report. Okay, I've done that. I've tried that one. नहीं नहीं actually titled Kasturi Rangan Committee report offered a more moderate approach compared to Gadgil report. It offered the more moderate report compared to Gadgil report, aiming to balance environmental protection. It aimed to balance. It aimed to balance environmental protection along with environmental protection with socio-economic benefits. It aimed to it aimed to balance environmental protection. What do you understand by environmental protection? That any sort of protection that is needed to be done, environmental protection. Obviously, we know that how passionate we are for the protection of the environment, seeing the present scenario wherein the climate change is one of the main topic. It's one of the focal points of every discussion. But the point is, environmental protection cannot be done at the cost of taking away the livelihood of the people who are solely dependent upon the nature for their sustenance, right? So we have to look into that matter also. So we have to bring out the balance. Whenever you have to write in conclusion, whether in environmental geography or for the mains, wherever you will write the conclusion, you will always see that you have to figure out some sort of balance between the two. आप ऐसा कभी नहीं करेंगे that you will just because you want to look good in the books or maybe you want to write good. So you can just write everything practical. You have to be more pragmatic while you're writing the things. Okay. So this was the Kasturi Rangan one was more pragmatic one. It was moderate. Therefore, with Gadgil giving a lot of provisions, Kasturi Rangan was still being favored by the people. Right? So write down. Aiming to balance environmental protection with socio-economic benefits.
benefit needs of local communities. Needs of local communities. Full stop. By focusing on sustainable development, full stop. By focusing on by focusing on sustainable development, by focusing on sustainable development, comma, by focusing on sustainable development, comma, the report sought to ensure Western Ghats. The report assured that the Western Ghats could be preserved. That the Western Ghats could be preserved for future generation without unduly affecting livelihoods of the people, without unduly affecting the livelihoods of the people, without affecting unduly the livelihoods of the people living in the highly polluting industries. Living in the highly polluting industries. Right? Oh. So these were the two reports, right? And we can also see he is thought to have a very balanced approach. Even if you want to write about this, there you could see a lot of balanced approach in his recommendation. Okay, so write a balanced approach. The Kasturi Rangan committee aimed to balance. The Kasturi Rangan committee aimed to balance development with conservation. It aimed to balance. It aimed to balance development with conservation. It aimed to balance development with conservation, comma, recommending that only 37% of Western Ghats, recommending that only 37%, recommending that only 37% of the Western Ghats should be, only 37% of the Western Ghats should be designated as ecological sensitive areas. Flexibility for development. Next point under it, write down. It gave the flexibility for the development. Next point. It gave flexibility for development. What do you mean by that? That this report gave more leeway. Leeway means more relaxation in terms of if they want to change, if they want to do something, they could do that, right? So it was not that strict as Gadgil's was, right? Write down the Kasturi Rangan committee allowed more leeway for development activities. It allowed more leeway for development activities. It allows more leeway for development activities, comma, including small scale hydropower project, including small scale hydroelectric slash hydropower project and industrial developments and industrial developments. That's all. Okay. So next thing that you have to focus on. Okay, that day we were doing the biodiversity, right? So in biodiversity, we have seen how we have divided the species richness. We have taken two parts, right? We have taken biodiversity richness, and we have seen also evenness, right? These two things we have done, and apart from that, we have also done alpha diversity, gamma diversity, beta diversity, and gamma diversity, right? These things we have already done. Anything that you have to ask with respect to the diversity, the portion that we have done so far, then you can ask. Not anything you need to ask from that, please ask me. Then I'll start with the next part. Okay. Now come to the question right now. Biodiversity conservation. Nikki, please come to the next question. Biodiversity conservation. How biodiversity conservation can take place? There are two methods which are involved in the biodiversity conservation. One is your in situ process, your in situ conservation, and another one is ex situ conservation. Please try to understand this. I will make you write definitely, but before that, try understand this question first. What is your in situ process? In situ conservation means wherever the habitat is, you don't have to take that species from that particular habitat and keep it somewhere else. You don't have to do that. Why? Because it is adaptable to that particular place. It is adapting to that particular place. तो वहीं के लिए है. That particular species is quite intermingled, it is quite comfortable in that particular area. Why would you take it out from there and keep it somewhere else? Only when the conditions in which it is staying is not suitable for it. When it is becoming adverse for the species, then only we will take out that particular species from that area and keep it somewhere else safe and protected. Okay? So whenever you are trying to treat any species in their own habitat, right? When you're trying to cure them, when you're trying to heal them, when you're trying to restore their characteristics, only in the habitats in which they have been living in, you call it as in situ. That is called in situ. When you're trying to take the species out of their habitat, species out of their habitat, For the conservation process, you call it as ex situ conservation process. ठीक है? In situ means what? In situ means that in the particular habitat only we'll try to restore, we'll try to uh, stop the degradation process and the kind of impact which is being brought on the species, we'll try to reduce that. Okay. So this is called the conservation strategies. There are two conservation strategies. Although they are not as small as they look like, this is just the explanation part, this is just the introductory part. So when I talk about in situ conservation, there are certain protected areas that we form. Now protected areas is an umbrella term, it's a one term that can be used for various protected areas which have been designated under different levels. When I talk about levels, this could be your national parks, that is also a protected area, one of the type of protected area. But they are divided into the levels. Level means they are divided under whether it is getting the highest level of protection or the lowest level of protection. So if I talk about the protected area national park, it is getting the highest level of protection. The species under it are getting the highest level of protection. Then if I talk about wildlife sanctuary, they are also getting the highest level of protection. The rules are very stringent in fact. Here the rules are stringent in both national park and wildlife sanctuary. Then the next stricter one is moderately stricter is your biosphere reserve. That is also one of the type of the protected area. Then we have community reserve and conservation reserve. So these are the areas, and in the order I have tried to place them, that how they are one of the most important and most important protected areas which try to conserve the species. So whenever there is a species which is of, it is under high vulnerability, it is threatened, it is endangered. So whenever the species is found somewhere, and you need to see that a lot of species are there which is getting impacted, because if one species will get impacted, automatically there would be a ripple effect. अगर एक species को problem होगा तो बाकी species automatically क्या होंगी, problem में आ जाएगी. So what we need to do, we need to conserve an area as a whole. So what we will do, we will designate national park, we will designate wildlife sanctuary, we will designate biosphere reserve, community and conservation reserve. So this all will be designated. So out of these, there are two which has been designated, who under which act they have been protected. They have been protected under Wildlife Protection Act. आप किस एक्ट के अंदर इसको प्रोटेक्ट करें? वाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट, although 1972, although where and how they will be designated, that is a different story altogether. We will get into one by one into each of them, but for now you have to see how they are protected. Okay? So national park is something which has been protected under Wildlife Protection Act only. Wildlife sanctuary only. Biosphere, I will tell you what are the biosphere reserve. There could be many national parks also under biosphere, but designation is done by UNESCO already, because it is coming under the MAP program of biosphere, which is Man and Biosphere program of UNESCO. And so this is what. So these are the in situ conservation strategies, wherein we are trying to conserve a species from vulnerability, from any kind of sensitivity in their own habitats, right? Any doubt that you are having, just let me know. There are other sites also. I have just written 5. There are other protected areas, wetland conservation. Ramsar sites will also come under the in situ process only. I'll make you learn. But before that, if you have any doubt in the conceptual clarity, just let me know that. उससे पहले आप मुझे ये बताएंगे अगर आपको conceptual clarity में problem. Clear. Okay. So write down. सबसे पहले आप you put a box like this. Try to make a box like this. आप conservation strategies लिखेंगे और फिर आप ऐसे box में रहेंगे. in situ and ex situ, and then we will write all the areas which have been designated under in situ and ex situ. We will discuss about that. Okay. Just first try to make this. इन सितु का डेफिनेशन लिखेंगे राइट डाउन. यहाँ पे you will write the definition first and then I will give you all the areas right down. In situ conservation refers to, right down. In situ conservation refers to conservation of species in their natural habitats. It refers to conservation of their species in their natural habitat or the ecosystem. Conservation of their species in their natural habitats or ecosystem. Full stop. It involves protecting and managing ecosystems. It involves protecting. It involves protecting and managing species in their own system or ecosystem. Protecting and managing their species in their own ecosystem, common natural habitats, and wildlife population in their natural settings and wildlife population in their natural settings, wildlife population in their natural setting for conservation of biodiversity. For conservation of biodiversity. You have to maintain biodiversity, simple. Right? So what are the types which can be included? Write down. सबसे पहले protected areas लिखेंगे सारे. What are the protected areas? Write down national parks. Write down one by one. In fact, continue the list from here only. सबसे पहले लिखेंगे national parks, wildlife sanctuary, biosphere reserves. These all are in civil. Then community reserve, then conservation reserve, then conservation reserve, then write down how many done? 5. Then write down sacred groves, Ramsar sites, biodiversity hotspot, write down here biodiversity hotspots. Then write down marine protected areas, marine protected areas, tiger reserves, elephant reserves, tiger reserves, elephant reserves. Right on next, natural world heritage sites, natural world heritage sites. आप इसको यूनेस्को वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट भी लिख सकते हैं. Natural World Heritage Site. Then you will write down important body is written. Then write down Ramsar wetlands are also written, right? So all of these are your in situ processes. Okay. First write down this, complete this, then we will switch to the ex situ conservation process. तो आपको क्या करना है? You have to switch to ex situ conservation process. So what is ex situ? Ex situ में आप क्या करें? You are taking that species out of that area because they are not comfortable in. It is not possible to maintain it. For example, अभी recently, if you talk about this case, Andaman Nicobar, right? There is a project which is going on there. We call it as Great Nicobar Project, right? What is the context? So the point is, the problem is where this Great Nicobar project is being made for the purpose of the container, further the transshipment of the goods, and also it has been seen as a very important, very important from the geopolitical dynamics. Recently, because this is having a very important location in Indian Ocean, and with respect to Chinese aggression over there, what is happening? If we try to develop this area, we will also be able to check the activities of the enemies, right? If they're trying to transcend in the area, what kind of activities they are doing. So from both perspective, from the transshipment perspective also, transshipment of the goods. Also, because this Great Nicobar project, which has been made on Nicobar Islands, is actually very near to the Malacca Strait. And Malacca Strait is one of the prominent trade route. It will help us a lot in reducing the. It will help us a lot in reducing the cost. The cost that we are bearing right now. What we do, because we don't have the prominent harbors, what we do, we take these containers to Sri Lanka, and from Sri Lanka that has been transported to the different areas, right? So whether the goods are coming through a Malacca Strait, they stop over here, they take a halt, and then they transfer the good into the ships which can harbor in this area. Reason why? Because the depth of the water should be so much that it can harbor the ship. But right now we do not have such facility near the Tamil Nadu coast, and it's not it's actually not compatible with the kind of the ships which can actually harbor at this area, right? So what we are doing, we are trying to develop the Great Nicobar project here, which will be more compliant with the today's ship. Definitely, they can stop over there, they can take a halt, and then we don't have to give the charges to the Sri Lanka which we are actually giving. So ideally, we are having a loss of 200 to 220 billion dollars. So that will be stopped. First of all, we will not have that much of loss currently which we are bearing. Second, from the perspective of geopolitics, that is going to be extremely important because this is one of the position of the India from where it can keep an eye on the activities of the enemy country. So this is what is happening over here. So this is a small information. Why? Because I want to tell you the why where I am leading towards. So basically, what is happening with this project is there is a species which you call it as, in fact, there is a bay with the name of Galathea Bay, and this bay is really important. Why? Ecologically, it holds a lot of importance for the turtle. There is a turtle which comes here. It comes and there is a nesting place for this turtle. And what will happen if they will try to make a container terminal here? They are planning to make a container terminal, and if they try to make a container terminal, this width of the way will actually be reduced from 38 km to less. The moment this will be reduced, what will happen? Automatically the turtles will try take another route and they will not come and nest over here. So what we are trying to do, we are disbalancing the area. Right. So there are certain conservation the strategists, the environmentalists, they are what they are saying is, although a lot of people have the problem because you are trying to invade in the space of the species, right? So what they are trying to give alternatives in terms of that you can transport, I mean you can transfer, you can release the eggs of these turtles to somewhere else. For example, they have consider another beach in the same area where they will take all the eggs and they will put it there. But do you really think, because this is not a place where the turtles have come before, this is not a place where the nesting used to take place, so how it is possible that you can transfer it? It is not possible because the area they are more comfortable in, the area they have been adaptable to is this area, not that one. So if you can see in the small areas also, the sensitivity is huge. If you talk about certain animals who are quite stick to a particular location, and that is quite evident, right? They are trying to say that when we decrease the width of the bay because the container terminal is being made over here, so they try to show them through the artificial lights or through the reflectors that this is the passage. That is not the way. This is just an assumption. You are just assuming it. This we will do this and we will do that. We'll try to preserve the turtles over here, but this is not possible, right? So first thing is that these species are endangered. But knowing the fact these species are endangered, you cannot make such a huge transformation in the area. Reason being this, knowing that they are endangered, they will be sensitive to the different changes present in that particular area, right? So that is number one. Okay. I'll tell you the name of the turtle. There is a particular species. By the way, the beach they are releasing them to is B Quarry Beach, and the name of the species is yes, it is leatherback and olive ridley. Yes, leatherback and olive ridley. Olive ridley turtle. These are two species. Okay. So this is what. So we were talking about XA2. That XA2 is not possible every time. We can consider it that we will do this and do that. Is not possible. In the recent case, also I have given an example of introduction of the African cheetah to India. Now you are introducing from the African continent to an Indian subcontinent a cheetah. The cheetah was African cheetah was adapted. He was more comfortable in the area where it has been living it for a very long time. Now, if you will introduce it over here, do you think it will be able to adapt so quickly? Not possible. So, Exito also has to be done with a lot of careful thought, with a careful precaution has to be done. You cannot do this Exito like that. Okay. So one is this. Now, what are the types of X2 that we can consider? First, write down the definition of X2. पहले X2 का definition लिखेंगे. X2 conservation involves conservation of species. लिखिए. X2 conservation involves conservation of species. X2 conservation involves conservation of species. I don't outside their natural habitats. Full stop. This method is used when this method is used when in situ conservation is not possible. This method is used when in situ conservation is not possible or effective. Full stop. It often involves taking species out. It often involves taking species out of their habitats. It often involves taking species out of their habitats and maintaining them in a controlled environment. And maintaining them in a controlled environment. Can we have the examples of the controlled environment? Yes. One is your zoo. Another is your botanical garden. Next, it could be your bird sanctuary. Next slide down. Zoo, botanical garden, gene banks, seed banks. Seed bank, gene bank, seed bank, gene bank, right now. Cryopreservation, aquariums, cryopreservation, aquariums, then DNA banks, DNA banks, rehabilitation center, rehabilitation center, rehabilitation centers, etc. So these are two prominent strategies, although we will do all of them in quite detail. Okay, so we will try to go through this topic in both the ways. Like we will do for India, like which are the biosphere reserves which are there in India, wildlife sanctuary there in India, national parks there in India, and what are the international institutions which have been formed for the biodiversity conservation special. Okay, we will do both the things. So first, we will cover the India's part in this. First of all, write down national parks. Write down national parks. Okay. Write down national parks. Right. The state government has the authority. The state government has the authority to declare national park. Has the authority to declare national park. Just for the information, both central and state government both can declare a national park. That is not like that. Only the state can declare. The central government can also declare the national park. For the prelims, if you want to write it in the box, you can write like that. The state and the center can declare, government can declare the national park. Okay. What is there with the national park? The national park has what? The once it is declared as a national park, it cannot be degraded to wildlife sanctuary. There are chances that there are certain sanctuaries or biosphere or maybe the protected areas, any sort of protected area, maybe conservation reserve, that can be upgraded to national park. But once it's upgraded to national park, it cannot be downgraded to any of these. Okay, that is the fact that you have to remember for prelims. Alright? Alright? So one thing is this. Second is the areas which have been decided. For example, this is square kilometer is the area that has been designated for the national park. If I want to alter the boundary of the national park, alter can be in the form of increase or decrease. Any changes with respect to the boundaries of the national park, if I have to make, I have to seek for the permission. I have to seek for the permission. Whose permission you can do that? I'll let you know. There is a institution, authority with whom you have to take the permission and then finally finalize. Okay. So alteration cannot be made very casually. First thing you need to get it that once the area has been designated for the wildlife center for the national park, it cannot be changed very randomly. It has to have to go with the procedures. It has to go with the kind of a procedure that has been given to them. Okay, so write down first. The state government has the authority to declare any national park, whether or not it falls within any sanctuary, whether or not it falls within any sanctuary. Whether or not it falls within any sanctuary. I know. This is done when area holds importance. So, what could be the reason why we are declaring the area as national park? It could be done as the area holds ecological importance due to its area holds important due to its ecological, faunal. Area holds importance due to faunal. Area holds ecological importance due to faunal, floral. It holds importance due to faunal, floral, geomorphical, geomorphological, or zoological value. Geomorphological or geomorphological or zoological value. So there could be many ways, many reasons for it to declare it. Okay? Zoological value. Next, the aim is to protect, propagate, and develop. The aim is to protect, propagate, and develop wildlife and their environment and develop wildlife and their environment. Right now, next point. The boundaries of the national park cannot be changed. The boundaries of the national park cannot be changed by the state government. The boundaries of the national park cannot be changed by the state government without a recommendation from National Board, NBWL, that is a short form, National Board for Wildlife. It cannot be changed without the recommendation from the National Board for Wildlife. Full stop. This ensures that the park boundaries are protected. This ensures that the boundaries are protected from arbitrary alterations. This ensures that the boundaries are protected from arbitrary means casually आपका मतलब कहा कि ये होना चाहिए आपने casually change कर दिया, so that is not the case in this. Okay, from the arbitrary alteration. Next, no person is allowed to destroy. Okay, so then let's discuss what activities are allowed or not. Let me just simplify it for you. Okay, so there are three these things, right? So first is this is the core area of national park. Okay, this is a core area of national park. In this, there is very strict rules. What are the rules? That there is no hunting allowed, no poaching allowed, right? Education area thoda bahut, which is for the research purpose also, that is also through the permission. Only through the permission. No human settlements is allowed. No human settlements is allowed. No lodges are allowed. Tourist lodges not allowed. So this is with respect to the national park. So there is high sort of a scrutiny over here. All of these activities are not allowed, and there is a stringent penalties if you violate these laws. There are stricter penalties which are being imposed. Right. So this is with respect to national park. And in one of the case, it was said there is a case TN Godavari versus Union of India. This states that there should be at least 5 to 10 kilometers of buffer zone which should be provided in the outer layers of every protected areas. That means if there is any protected area, so you cannot just start the human settlement or industrialization from here. That is not done. You cannot just do that because you are in a way trying to invade the space because what guarantee what could be the guarantee of this that the species would not move out from this area and roam over here? So at least you have to give some of the buffer space to them. Some sort of a corridor should be given to them so that they can move freely. And it can also there could be also possibility of human-animal conflict if you will try to make it that you try to give access to the industrial projects in these areas. Okay, so write down. No person is allowed to destroy. Write down. No person is allowed to destroy, exploit, or remove wildlife, or remove wildlife, or forest produce from the park, or forest produce from the park, nor can anyone alter, nor can anyone alter or damage, nor can anyone alter or damage the habitat or divert the flow of water, divert the flow of water in the park. Next point, grazing of livestock is completely banned. Grazing of livestock is completely banned. Next, hunting and poaching is not allowed. Hunting and poaching is also not allowed. Next, no construction of tourist lodges inside the park. whether it be government lodges or commercial, any of it. Okay? No construction of tourist lodges, including government lodges for commercial purposes, hotels, safari parks. Wait. No construction of tourist lodges, bracket में लिखेंगे including government lodges for commercial purposes, hotels, zoos, safari is allowed. Is not basically no से start किया था sentence, so it is not allowed. Okay, is not allowed inside the sanctuary unless approved in advance. Unless approved in advance by National Board for Wildlife. National Board for Wildlife. Right, so these are the important provisions. Okay, so one thing that you have to do, you have to understand this what kind of body it is. National Board for Wildlife. Whether it's a statutory body or it's a executive body, and if it's a statutory body, so under what act it was made statutory. So that is what you need to know. So write a detailed note on Wild National Board for Wildlife. That is an assignment question, a very short assignment question for all of you. That you have to write the details on the National Board for Wildlife. Okay. Alright, so we will continue with the biosphere, wildlife sanctuaries and the biosphere reserves tomorrow. I know that a little of your time was little wasted due to the technical glitch, but it's okay. Okay, so I have given you two questions. One is an assignment question, which I have given you for the Kasturi Rangan committee, and one I have given an assignment of writing about the wildlife, National Board for Wildlife. Okay, done. Okay, how much you have given the test this time? Have you attempted the test this time? Has it been done? Yes, online students. How many of you have attempted it? Have you attempted the test? Okay, in any case, you have not attempted, please try to complete it at least this time, right? Okay, just try to complete the question. Meanwhile, you're having 2-3 minutes. Try to write something on the National Board for Wildlife for the previous question that we did. Thank you so much, class.